makes me feel like a man.
You want every team to lose any other game? Sorry. Bailey Zappi just do another time. You know what? Whoa, time out. Are you kidding? That's what I'm gonna try to drop a mic.
Welcome to the Warner Brothas Podcast. I'm Kyle, joined in person finally by my brother Keenan. This is the Warner Brothas Podcast. We are reacting to the end of the NBA Finals, the end of the NBA season. Celtics, I couldn't even tell you the final score, but the Celtics over the Mavericks in 5 games. What was the final score?
I want to say it was Celtics by, I think it was like 88-106, I believe. Shout out to the Celtics. Clap it
Shout
up.
out to the Celtics.
Kyle's
Big
team.
shout out to the Celtics.
As Kyle said, in 2021, he'd probably be up, maybe jumping around right now, but his Celtics fandom has died down just a little bit over the last few years, but basketball fandom's still there, of course.
I guess we're starting right off with that. I was going to wait till the middle of the show to do this, and I guess I don't even know if this even really needs to happen, but I'm officially announcing my retirement from Celtics fandom. It was official as of tonight because, I mean, as you saw, it was just like, whatever when they won. I'm super happy that they won. Sorry, my bad. There's a highlight dunks going on here. I'm super happy that they won. I really am. I'm happy for Jason. I'm happy for Jalen. I'm happy for Coach Mazzulla. I'm happy for the whole squad. I love a lot of the players on their squad, actually. That top 6 especially. But for whatever reason, I think I've alluded to this many times, so it doesn't really need an announcement like this, but, you know, for whatever reason, that fandom has died down. And the diehardness, the diehard love for the Celtics has died down. Doesn't mean I'm not happy for them. Doesn't mean I hate them or dislike them in any form or capacity. I'm very happy that they won, but I'm no longer, diehard. Like I said, the Patriots is a different story, but Celtics, so.
I feel like with the NBA, you can kind of get away with it more. And by away with it, I mean you can just be fans of players and fans of the game and not have to have a full team that you love. In the NFL, it's kind of really hard to support the NFL by just being like, oh, I just like this team, or I just like kind of like players. I feel like obviously you can just like players, like, oh, Patrick Mahomes is fun to watch, but typically if you're a Patrick Mahomes fan, you're kind of a Chiefs fan for the most part, unless you're really, really casual. But I get it, Kyle. I absolutely get it. And the good thing about you is, though, you didn't go out when they were, like, the worst team in the league, where it was like, oh, okay, no, he's just gone for them because they're bad. No, they just won the championship in 5 games and went through 16-3 in the playoffs. So
Yeah, I can't really explain it. I even almost tried to jump on the bandwagon. And by tried, I just, tried to get a little more invested and really just watch the games as intently as I could. And the spark did not come back. So has nothing to do with the Celtics. I think it's more to do with me. I think it's more to do with how I was as an NBA fan from, 2020 on, really. I feel like the league's changed a lot. Yeah. I think this is the first year I've truly enjoyed it start to finish in quite a while. Yeah. So I think that's really what it was, more so than the Boston Celtics themselves. Jason Tatum, Jalen, has nothing to do with the players or the coaches. So I think it just has to do with growing up, I guess. I don't know. Getting old. NBA ain't the same as the old days, I guess.
It ain't the same as the old days, but. So, and speaking of, you said the NBA obviously was very enjoyable in this season. Incredible. Front to back, you enjoyed it. What did you feel about the playoffs? Because I know there are multiple people who've been like up and down on the playoffs because the amount of deep competitive series that there have been has not been as much as you've wanted. But
that's a great question.
Yeah.
So I would say these playoffs were above average. Above average, like slightly above average. But I feel like the last several playoffs have been that. I feel like because of the amount of star injuries in the league, these are the type of playoffs we get. Where, we might get a surprising team like the Mavericks in the finals. Yeah. And we might get, the Celtics had an easy path. Again, I think the Celtics make it there anyway. Yeah. But they had an easier path because of injuries. If this trend continues, which I don't see why it wouldn't, because it's been steadily increasing over the last 8 to 10 years. Yeah. If we're going to get this many injuries to star players in the playoffs, I think it's going to be like that, where we should have series that go 7 or go 6, and we're going to have surprising ones that end in 4 or 5 games. So I don't know. I don't love it, and it seems like it's been that way for the last at least 8 years, where it's like, okay, this series should go 6 or 7, and it ends in a short series, and it ends in a 5-game series, and then you might get the series where teams are fully healthy, like the Magic and Cavs maybe, where that goes 7 games. You know what I mean? Because they are pretty even. So, you don't know. The playoffs were all right, but, if these injuries keep up, I just see it kind of staying the same, where you can't have explosive playoff runs from top to bottom. So
it's going to be more of, like, player moments in playoffs rather than, like, a bunch of, like, great teams. Like, obviously, like, when you think of this year, like, oh, the Celtics finally got over the hump. So Tatum had him. Oh, yeah. Well, we're still watching dunks in the background, and I've been watching a lot of random from Gerald Wallace to just Paul Pierce, Timmy D. But you go on from, say, Jason Tatum and the Celtics, they finally got over the hump, and then you could think of, Western Conference, what do you think of? You think, Luka went on a good run, but Anthony Edwards is one of the first people you think of, too. So, like, you think of more players rather than, like, this series was amazing. This series was amazing. Like, we've had a few 7-game series, a couple really good series. Like, Nuggets Timberwolves was good in its own way, even though, like, when you go through the games, it really was more like this team dominated. Then Game 7 was kind of almost a microcosm of the series, which was the first half was dominated by the Nuggets, the second half dominated by the Timberwolves. They pulled it out.
What I would say about that series, at least, even though it was blowouts, it was still high-level basketball.
Yeah.
And everyone was healthy for the most part, I believe. Jamal Murray played. He wasn't 100%, but he played. You know what I mean? We didn't have, like, Clippers and Mavs. That should have been a bona fide 7-game series if Kawhi plays. And, maybe it's a 6-game series the other way, but it's way more competitive, and there's way more question to it if you got Kawhi playing.
Yeah.
Same with the Bucks. Bucks have Lillard and Giannis the whole series.
Lillard and Dame.
And Dame time. No, if they got Lillard and Giannis, they probably make it through the Pacers, and it makes it a little more interesting on the Celtics. And, the fact that you have Giannis, someone of his caliber, who's basically in his 2 straight postseasons, adds intrigue to next season. But, I mean, that just doesn't seem common. I don't think you had Charles Barkley missing 2 straight postseasons due to injury back in the day. You know what I mean? So this trend is just...
Charles Barkley missing 2 straight postseasons, and then having someone like Hakeem Olajuwon be injured for one, and then and then play injured in another one. Like, no, you had... That was a good thing about, like, the 80s and 90s. For the majority, at least all of your stars were going to be healthy for the most part. You got a lot of players playing 82 games and then playing all of the playoff games. You obviously don't see as many 82-game seasons from individual players now, of course. But I think these playoffs were good, not great. I think, as I said, there's going to be moments that you remember. Is there any Celtics moment you specifically remember? Or, like, any game, any guy? I know, like, Jaylen Brown won the Finals MVP. We can touch on that. But, like, is there any moment you're thinking to yourself, like, this is kind of going to be the memorable moment from this Celtics run?
That's a great question. Really, nothing sticks out because they didn't really get tested. And that's no fault of theirs at all. And you know what? That's kind of unfair to say because even though there was moments without Halliburton in the Pacers series, I think it was games 3 and 4. They were down in both those games.
Yeah.
And they came back. Game 1, I think that's another one they could have thrown away. And they get that game into overtime in the Pacers series. Then the Mavericks this past game 3, or game 3. When they were up 20, they were dying to cough up that game. Of course, Luka helped them out by getting fouled out. But, those are all games in the past they for sure would have lost. Like, I can say that without even, like, they would have lost for sure. And... I think kind of the whole run sticks out with their maturity because, a lot of people are going to say, who'd they play? They won by this much. Well, that's what you're supposed to do when you're a great team. If you're facing a lesser team, kill them, right? Because if this run, they lost, 3 games total?
Yep.
If this run was, where they lose 7 or 8 games and they get tested by their own will, really, the only reason other teams are in this game, like a game 4, right? They didn't show up at all. They couldn't be bothered to show up, and the Mavericks won. Literally because the Celtics didn't want to play that game.
Yeah.
Whatever. Credit to the Mavs too, but there was none of that this postseason except for those 3 games. And one of those, that Miami game, they just got scorching hot. So they grew up a lot. Cause
they got blown out one time, and it was by Dallas in Game 4. Because even, like, the games they lost, like the Heat, it was still a 10-point game, 8-point game late. The Heat just made big shots. And then the Cavs, it was the same thing. Donovan Mitchell got hot. Evan Mobley played really well, and especially in the first half of that game, and that team they just ended up getting one.
And like you said at the beginning of the series, you said it was like 50-50 in the media.
Yeah.
And it seemed that way in the public too, where a lot of people were picking the Mavs, maybe in 6 or 7, and saying, the Celtics ain't got tested. Mm-hmm. So, for people, when they do say that, it's unfair, because the Celtics team, they did exactly what they should have done. They took care of business. You only lose 3 games. I don't care if the competition's lesser. That's impressive.
Yes.
Because it's very easy to just be like, all right, we won. We should win. And, you give not 100% effort. And they played 100%. They played phenomenal on defense. And it's only, I said this in the last podcast, that when they do win, it's only going to be scarier because of how that team's made. Right? You got to worry about Porzingis getting injured. But aside from that, Drew, Derek, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown, those guys all play. And they all play both ends of the floor. And, if they get a bench, because they didn't have a deep bench, and they still won 64 games in the league. Say what you want, but they won 64 games in the entire NBA. You can't take that away from them. They were dominant the entire season, so. And now there's no but.
There's no but. It's not like the but you didn't win the championship. They went 16-3 in the playoffs. The 72-10 Bulls in '96, they went 15-3 because they only played a round of 5 in the first round. So, like, not saying that they're the 96 Bulls or anything, but they went the same exact kind of route that the Bulls did, and they didn't let a series get to 6. Boston did. The Bulls went 6 with the Sonics, but for me, I think the moment that I'm going to remember is that Game 1 against Indiana, because even though obviously they had to get fortunate with Siakam losing the ball out of bounds, and they've kind of forced that turnover, but still, some blunders down the stretch, any game like that is kind of going to be some blunders down the stretch, but that just felt like, again, I always think of the Hawks series. Why are we going 6 with the Hawks 2 years ago? I know you ended up getting to the finals that year and losing to the Warriors, but why are we going 6 with the Hawks? There's no need to play around and let Trae Young do that. Especially Game 5, I believe it was. He takes a shot from 34 out, and it's why aren't we just closing him out? And that Pacers game felt like a game where the old Boston team lets them win that game. It's just okay, we don't execute down the stretch. And I understand Jalen made a tough shot in the corner. But again, tough shots are going to be made in playoff runs. So that would be the defining moment for me. Just because I felt like that kind of was almost a turn of this is a little bit different of a team than in years past. And, obviously they showed it by running through the playoffs.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe if they do get Milwaukee, maybe it turns out a little different. I think it would have been a tough matchup for Milwaukee. Maybe if they're facing adversity against a team like that who's more experienced, maybe something does happen. Fact is, we'll never know. And next year, hopefully the East is more healthy. Hopefully Embiid's healthy. Hopefully Giannis is healthy. And we can see these matchups. But, until then, it's going to be tough. I don't see a way, Milwaukee might be the only team, and Philly, we'll see what happens with them in free agency. The only team I can really see is if Milwaukee improves, maybe they challenge Boston for the number 1 spot, or maybe a team like the Knicks. But Boston just seems set up to continue this dominance. Doesn't mean I'm saying they're going to repeat, but just this dominance, I could see them winning 62 games next year.
Every player's coming back. Again, I was talking, shout out to Clayton. He actually said that I needed to shout him out on the podcast. Shout out to Celtics fan Clayton from DSG. Shout out to the win for you, because I know he is as pumped as possible. But the thing that I was talking to him about was this kind of felt 15 Warriors-esque. And we've kind of talked about this a little bit, and it's just because that Warriors run, what do people talk about when they talk about it? Now they talk about, that was the start of the dynastic run. At that time, once they got done, it was Mike Conley was injured on the Grizzlies. They played a Pelicans team that didn't have Drew Holiday. Obviously, Kevin Love and Kyrie got injured in Game 1 of the finals. So they just kept going against teams that didn't have their best player or their best guards on the floor, one of their best players in Conley, Drew Holiday, and Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. So it was Was this a legitimate team? They went 67-15 that year. Is this team really for real? And then obviously we know what happened the next year. 73-9, Steph unanimous MVP because they returned everybody that they already had, and there's a chip on their shoulder. This Boston team has been through more. They've gotten to a finals already. They've been in multiple conference finals. So the Warriors still had a little bit to prove in the sense of consistently being champions and consistently being within the Final Four. But I think Boston comes back next year, and I think they have a chip on their shoulder because I do feel the media is going to talk about this as if it was impressive, but like, who did they really play to get there? And then they played, like, I hope I just don't hear like a Luka and Doncic was like hurt kind of thing. Like, we can probably talk about Luka here in a moment because I think his stats are going to look better than what he actually played in the game. I think he played a bad first half. I think it was a disengaged first half, and until mid-third when they were already down 26, he didn't play well. But I think that Boston's poised, as you were saying, to 60-plus games next year. I'd be shocked if they weren't the 1 seed. Unless there's like some change that happens in the East, I would be shocked if they're not the 1 seed. I think they're going to roll next year, and at least in the regular season. We'll see what the playoffs look like.
They're just set up. I mean, everyone's going to gain not just confidence, just a championship level of confidence. Yeah. And that goes to the coaching staff, too. For Mazzulla to win it in his second year as such a young coach. I mean, he's set up for like a Eric Spoelstra type career. Mm-hmm. He really is. So you got that on top of Jason and Jalen. They're going to be there long term. And then you got Drew Holiday and Derek White. How the CBA set up, I'm not sure how long term it can be. But
at least next year.
At least next year for sure. And, you know, if you're going to have Jason and Jalen there and you can build the pieces and you can at least keep that four of Drew and Derek White as well, I don't see why you can't. And, you know, Porzingis is always going to be a question mark. We've seen that. And you'll have to replace Horford. But, I mean, even if you get Horford coming back for next year, and you're already guaranteed 6-7 deep. So, and they're going to have a better bench.
Their bigs are going to... Bigs and other players are going to want to play there. 1, it's a big market. 2, it's a great sports town. And 3, it's an opportunity to win. So you're going to have a lot more veterans on lighter contracts that are going to be like, okay, where do I want to kind of go? Let's fit into this team, especially because it's with the Boston Celtics as an equal opportunity offense in the sense of like everybody can get 20 in a game. Like if Kristaps, Drew, Al Horford, Derek White, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, we've seen all 6 of them be the leading scorer in this playoff run. So any of them can be. I mean, Sam Hauser's found his shot in the finals. He was having big moments and big plays. Obviously, Peyton, I only shoot late clock shot Pritchard. He hit a couple big ones too. So, like, it's going to be, they're a fun team. And I think they're a fun team to watch. They're one of the teams, again, another reason why I think Warriors is, even casual fans are like, man, I like watching them because they play the right way, quote unquote. Like, it's never like the right way. And like, that was the thing with the Warriors. It was like, okay, who's this guy Steph who's fun, kind of shooting from everywhere, but like the ball movement, the passing, the strength in numbers, like that's kind of what this Boston team feels like and why it's good for them. And so shout out to Boston. 16 years ago to the day that they won in 08, they win in 2024. Do you want to touch on the Dallas side of things at all and kind of break down anything there and thoughts you have?
I want to shout out Brad Stevens.
Yes, absolutely.
And shout out Danny Ainge because Danny Ainge really laid the foundation for this team. Mm-hmm. But I think Brad Stevens has not missed a single step of the way since he's become, president of basketball operations over there. I think he's done a phenomenal job. He was a phenomenal coach. I think if he was still in this position, I think he would have won a ring by now as well. And the fact that he could just easily jump from coach to GM
that's kind of
just win a ring anyway.
It's kind of where you get the Pat Riley, the Miami Heat, because when like Pat was down coaching, it was like, hey, it's supposed to get over here, and then I'm just gonna go into the kind of exec mode, and then kind of how they work that system they have there.
This team's got Brad's fingerprints all over it. I mean, obviously Ainge drafted Jason and Jalen, but I mean, he was a huge part to their early careers, and a huge reason why they never broke up. I think a lot of teams would have gave up on Jalen by now, and I think he's been the biggest one in their corners, being like, no, we're not splitting these two up. It's hard to get versatile wings in this league. These guys can play 3 positions, and you're gonna see. I'm telling you, you're gonna see the fruition of this because they're going to, at the least, barring injury, for sure be in a Game 6 or Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals next year. Yeah. It's going to happen, barring injury. I mean, unless the team significantly improves.
Again, or they see the Heat in the first round with a healthy Jimmy Butler and someone else. Like, that's really the only...
If the Heat all of a sudden land Donovan Mitchell somehow or someone like that or whoever, maybe Paul George, I don't know. But, I mean, this Celtics team is really set up. Mm-hmm. And Brad is going to continue to do a phenomenal job. I mean, I think Celtics fans should feel the same way we did as Patriots fans. Even when Belichick would make what seemed like a questionable move, it always seemed to be the right move. And I'm not even kidding when I say I don't think Brad Stevens has done one bad move. I mean, he got Holiday and Porzingis in one offseason. Mm-hmm. After the Dame trade, I believe. So,
it was right after the Dame trade.
Before the Dame trade, because I think Dame got traded like right before training camp. But
Drew Holiday was there the day before training camp.
True.
So,
yeah, because Drew,
Yeah, so like he traded for Dame because everyone was like,
Porzingis he got early.
Because it was like, Miami's gonna get Dame, or Miami's gonna get Dame, and then he didn't get Dame. It's like, Miami's gonna at least get Drew Holiday, and then they're like, nope, let's just go snatch him up real quick, and clearly Drew Holiday, 2-time champion now. Shout out to him. He was a key piece to them. I think you give the championship confidence and then also just the even-keel personality that he is. So, shout out to him.
Yeah, in Boston right now, they're a significant favorite already to win next year's championship. Obviously, that'll change a little bit with, I don't want to say the draft. Draft's probably not going to make a big difference, but free agency and whatever trades we have to get this summer. So, they'll still be the favorite for sure, but the fact that they're pretty heavy favorite right now.
Yeah.
Doesn't say a lot, but it also does, just with their team construction. So, I mean, I mentioned last podcast, I am already hyped for next season. I don't think I've been anticipating an NBA season like this since 2020. So, I already can't wait. It's going to be a fun season because there's going to be a lot of people coming for Boston. There's going to be a lot of people who are trying to match the versatility they have. And it's a copycat league. Mm-hmm. And I'm very interested to see how the West and the East reacts to this. And we still got coaches to be hired. I don't know if you saw this report earlier, Keenan, but Brian Windhorst said apparently the league made a change to rules where free agency can start immediately after the finals ends.
I did not see that.
So he said there might be contracts that are signed tomorrow, which that sounds insane to me.
It does.
I can't believe they changed. I didn't know you could change a rule like that on the fly. Matter of fact, I'm going to see if that's true or if I didn't read no bullshit here. But, no, I can't wait. It's going to be a phenomenal offseason, I think, with the Olympics included.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a phenomenal season next year. Of course, barring injury. But I think regardless, we got a lot of great young talent. The veteran teams now, like the Celtics, are going to be entertaining. And who's coming after them, like the Bucks and the Heat, and seeing what they do. And then you still got the old guys like the Lakers, like the Warriors, like the Phoenix Suns, and all the drama that's going to surround those three teams next year. So we're set up for a legendary season, I believe.
We are, absolutely. While Kyle's looking at that, I'm going to touch on the Dallas side of things real quick. I think going into next year, Dallas is going to have definitely a great nucleus. The West is very tough, and you're going to have teams coming back next year that...
Free agency started at 12:01.
That is crazy. So we could be getting a contract drop in this at any point. But I think that Dallas is definitely in a good spot for next year. And it really... You could see Luka kind of start to change a little bit of his temperament towards games 4 and 5. I think game 4 they should look at. And the energy that they played with is what they need to play with throughout the playoffs next year. Obviously, getting to the playoffs is going to be the first thing, and obviously balancing that out. They could use another wing defender. I think another versatile wing defender, two-way guy. Obviously, as we'll set the name, Paul George always comes up on everybody's list. I don't think they even have the money for him. But a guy like that who can get his own shot when needed, can stretch the floor, but also can play defense on the wing, because Derek Jones... Jesus, Gerald. God, that dunk is insane. But... Because Derek Jones Jr., another high flyer, it'd be great if he could be a bench guy. Or even like a guy who only needs to play like 18 minutes. When he has to be like a really main focal point of the rotation, especially when you see a team like a Boston, it's kind of tough to have to require 15 plus from him. Because then you have to say, okay, a Kyrie who's diminishing a little bit. Kyle and I were pointing out there have been layups at the basket where it's like, oh, Kyrie in 17, 18, even Brooklyn Kyrie finishes that every time. And it's like, oh, these are just rimming in and out. It's just he doesn't have that same lift, that same burst that he used to. So you're making it say, okay, Luka, you've got to average 35, 12, and 10 for you guys to win. And that's just really tough to do when you have a 7-game series. So I think they just need another versatile wing defender to help out Luka, Kyrie, and then Derrick Jones Jr. can be someone who comes off the bench for you. If that's a bench guy, then I think you're in a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, if you couldn't tell by past episodes, I'm pretty disappointed in Luka and just his overall temperament, like you said in the series. Whether it's, bitching at the refs, which he always does, that's really nothing new, but just how he defended, like he is a 0 on defense, on-ball defense especially. Very much reminiscent of James Harden. But, I'll give Harden a little bit of credit here. He would at least try a little bit in the playoffs on defense. Whereas Luka, I mean, it was like a regular season game in January against the Hornets to him, the entire playoffs. Sometimes, here and there you'd see him move his feet. But no real effort. And, man, when they, pan to him with 2 minutes left when he's coming off the court, I think when they were reviewing the play, he just looked like, I would be pissed if I was down 25 in an elimination game and I'm the best player on the team, and he was regular. Like he looked like he didn't look bothered at all. He looked very unbothered, and he was just, I don't know, I was disappointed to see that. Usually with your star players you can at least see such and such is pissed here, or he looks affected by this loss, and he just whatever, just another day.
And it's not like you have to be. It's not like you have to be throwing things and everything. But I should see disdain on your face. I should see a little bit of man, I wanted to go in here and win this game, and we're not just losing the game. We're getting walked, and we've been getting walked since the end of the first quarter. We just are not better than this team, and not being better than I would just walk around upset. Playing pickup basketball, I'm upset. When that happens, I couldn't imagine being in the NBA Finals and being that.
You get upset when you lose in pickup basketball?
Absolutely.
Upset?
I'm frustrated. I hate losing. So, in that sense, yes, I hate losing.
I don't know if I get upset.
No, I'm more. I don't mean. Well, okay.
A little pissed off
okay, so
going.
Pissed would be more the word than upset. I don't mean oh man, I can't. But I'm more so just if I'm consistently losing, there are multiple times where my team will just continuously not win because of just dumb plays or whatnot, and I just get extremely frustrated because I'm sick and tired of losing. And I could only, if that's how I feel in a pickup basketball game, I could only imagine Game 5 in the NBA Finals when I want to win a championship, what I would feel. I just couldn't.
All right. I mean, I was gonna compare. So Jalen Suggs in the first round, he was crying after a Game 7. We're talking about a role player who was crying over a game. I don't think anybody thought the Magic were going to make it to the finals, and you know what I mean? But, he wants to win that badly. I mean, that's one reason why I'm a fan of Jalen Suggs. He wants to win that badly that he believes, doesn't matter what anyone thinks, he believes the Magic could win a championship.
Yeah.
And you got Luka, whose whole body language is just deferential and just seems to be oh, none of this is my fault. My teammates, they ain't got it, so... You know what I mean? So that's very disappointing to see, especially if someone of his talent, that's the greatest crossover of all time. I don't care what anyone says.
No, that oh my God.
But, no, I'm extremely disappointed in Luka. And it was even more disappointing to see at times when they're down 20 points, 25 points, he'll just take someone like Drew Holiday straight to the rim with no issue. And you're wondering, okay, why can't you do that when it's all square?
Yeah.
Because, your teammates aren't the best. They're good enough to get to the finals, first of all. And second of all, if you can at least draw as much attention to yourself as possible, you can create open threes. Yeah, Boston's still going to be nice defensively, and they're going to do what they got to do. But, I just feel like he could have made way more of an impact. And like you said, the stats might look like he did a lot, but to me, those are as empty of stats as they can be. And their one win was a blowout win where Boston was really all right, y'all can have it. Both teams pulled their starters in the mid-third quarter. I've never seen that. I've never seen both teams pull both their starters in the middle of the third quarter. It was such a blowout.
Yeah.
So this was a very much an empty finals for Luka Doncic. I'm going to remember him getting fouled out in Game 3, probably the most. Yeah, it's disappointing all around. It was a disappointing, boring finals. One of the worst finals I've ever seen. But, hey, don't kill the Celtics for that. Don't kill the Celtics for that. They did their job.
Absolutely.
Mavericks did not show up.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see what moves. I'm excited to see moving forward who Lakers sign, obviously where in the draft everybody goes. I'm excited to see all of that. But shout out to Boston. Congratulations to Boston. Champions once again, first time in 16 years. So that's all I have. Is there anything else you want to speak on at all?
I can't wait to win this 3-point contest later this week.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to Joe DeZazzo. Joe DeZazzo here. Friend of the family, friend of the show. Kinda. He's been a friend of the show by speak. He hasn't actually been on the show yet, but 3-point contest between him and Kyle, and probably myself included, so we're excited for that. But,
probably?
Yeah. I mean, you guys are the ones going back and forth, so we'll see if I put my name into the ring, but, you know.
I mean, if you don't want the smoke, I mean,
I'm not really scared, so, I mean, yes, I guess I'm into too. I guess I'm now involved. Stamped it. But this was the Warner...
I'm going to win anyway, so don't matter.
Okay. Okay, if you say so. This was the Warner Brothas Podcast. That's, of course, Kyle. This is Keenan in person here together. Like, comment, share, all of that stuff. TikTok, Instagram, obviously YouTube, all Warner Brothas Podcast. We appreciate all the support, and I'll see you guys soon.
Like a man.